Hi all, my name is Chris Foster, and today I would like to just show you some of the snow techniques that I used to get the snow in my most recent piece, as I've had a couple of requests. So let's just take a look at what I have here. This is my piece, and there are really three types of snow that I did for this. The first being the ground snow down here. And that includes, that's really everything down here. It's all one piece. And that includes the footsteps and these little flecks right here. So that's all in the ground snow. So what I did for that was, first this is just a mesh right here. So I sculpted in using Blender's new dynamic sculpting. I sculpted in footprints using a boot decal that I found online. And just kind of tweaked up in GIMP and stuff and brought that back into Blender as a sculpt brush. And so I put that on the clay brush and sculpted these footprints in. And that worked really nicely, actually. So that'll be something that I do again. And for the left-right foot variation, I really just scaled the texture, the boot decal, on the x-axis. I just kind of inverted it, and that worked really nicely too. So that was that, and after I sculpted in the footsteps and kind of roughed up the edges and put some little blobs here and there and stuff, I put in the flecks that you see here. And the flecks are really just tiny polygons rotated randomly and stuff that have a very bright material on them. They don't really look like sparkles quite so much, I don't think, anymore, but it's kind of a nice effect. But what I did with these was to stick them to the original mesh itself, just with a particle emitter. So, and that's really that. I'll show you guys how to do that later, or what I did for this at least. The next big type of snow that I have here that I got a question about was the falling snow right here. So I actually really liked how this came out, and the motion blur really just kind of adds a little something. So what I did for this was really just create a particle emitter above the scene right here. It's roughly the shape of the view frustum, actually. So it goes out quite a ways. And these are just planes, like quads really, with this image slapped on them. And the emitter plane is weight painted, so that most of the particles fall directly right in front of the camera, and then it kind of gets gradually more sparse as it moves outward. That's just so I could deal with the the density. I could get the density that I wanted without having to have an absurd number of particles here. So after that, I changed in the physics settings. I made them fall really, really slowly. So they're just really light, so they fall very slowly. And after that, after I had them falling down, I went into particle mode and really, with a big brush, just kind of painted in some curvy motion here that you see. And I think that turned out really well, because snow never really falls straight down. It's always just kind of buffeted by even the tiniest little eddies and small breezes and stuff. So that, I think that's a big key in making falling snow look more realistic. So I'm glad I did that, and I'll show this to you guys too. So the third type of snow that I have in this scene is not one that I'm probably not going to show to you guys, but that's really just the snow that I put on the branches of this tree here. And that, yeah, I wasn't really too happy with how it turned out. You know, it's not so bad, but basically this is just a bunch of planes kind of stuck onto the tree, on the branches at least. And so it adds the desired effect kind of down here, but but not so much other places. It took a long time to do, and I'm not sure if it was worth it. The tree needed something, and I guess this was it. But it's not very realistic, especially considering it snowed for like the past 48 hours over here, so I've got plenty of good models and samples to look at, and they just don't look like this. So that's kind of a failure. But, oh well, I don't think it hurts the piece too much. I guess down here, this is like a final little thing that I did. I thought the seam between the trunk of this stump and the ground was just way too harsh. So I thought about ways to fix that, and I like what I came up with actually. That was really some texture blending right here. It's not perfect, but I think it really takes your attention off of the seam. The seam was just way too harsh. It didn't look natural, and I think this is a better alternative. So what I did was really just to make a black texture, a completely black texture, and apply it to the stump here, and then onto that I painted this. I painted in white, just this like speckly kind of stuff, and then I used that to actually mix in some of the actual snow material down here. So I think that really draws your attention away from the harsh edge down there, and I really like how that came out. But so yeah, I think that in with everything else, that's the snow that I have in this scene. So let's kind of just demo, starting with the ground snow. Let's just kind of demo some of that. Okay, so as I said, I did most of this with dynamic topology sculpting, but when I did this, it was not in Blender's trunk, so I had to download and build the DynTopo branch that I found on GitHub. And then when I was going to do the LuxRender stuff, I switched back to the trunk. So, but nobody has to do that anymore because the dynamic topology is in trunk now. So anyway, let's get started. So let's just create the plane here, and on the clay brush I set up the sculpt brush that I used when opening with the boot decal. The aspect on that image is not 1, so I had to scale the X to 2 there. And using the alpha overlay, I see it now. Just kind of testing a couple things out. I hold Control to make it go into the plane. So setting the detail high enough, I start making the basic footprints. And that geometry is a mess, so you don't have to do this anymore because there's now a simplify brush, but I used a draw brush with 0 strength and low detail to do this, to simplify all that. And then there's a lot of crap left over, so I found a good way to get rid of all that, and that's to enter edge select mode and then select loose. You can find that by pressing space and typing it in, and delete those, and then go into vertex mode and do the same thing. That gets rid of all that. So right now I'm kind of just adding some stuff around each boot print. In the back there I'd kind of dug a little trench. I don't know if you tried walking in deep snow without leaving those, but it's pretty hard. So I wanted to keep that in there. And around that, just kind of some snow that might have fallen off each boot. And yeah, just kind of roughing it up, making it look less stencil cut. So yeah, all this worked pretty well. As I said before, how I got the left and right variation was scaling the X value of the texture between positive and negative. So it was 2, just changed it to -2 and got the left. So I cleaned this model up a couple times, just like now, a couple times prematurely basically, because then I go back and do something else like now. So I'm just gonna simplify the rest of this, and I don't really care about the edges, as you can see. Just the point is to show off the boots. So I just clean it up on the inside again. Anyway, so that's all done. The sculpting is done. So now I'm going back through my actual piece, just checking all the settings. If you want to pause the video, you could probably check out the actual color values. Anyway, so I just got rid of the dynamic topology branch, opened up trunk. So now I'm sticking on the specs, and so that plane I just made was is the little thing that I'm duplicating there. So I'm just setting a black material so I can see all the specs better. In this one I tried a couple different things because in my piece I thought the flecks were too big and I thought the bump was too strong. So I'm gonna change those here. Anyway, I set up the camera because the position of the camera is very important, because I don't ever like to do more than what will be seen. So I just painted in the view, and now using that to determine the density of the flecks. Okay, so I'm going back through. I imported the actual snow material I used, and now I'm copying over all the LuxRender specific stuff that didn't come with it. And so there's all that. Yeah, so there I reduced the bump a bit. Anyway, so now I'm bringing in the bright fleck material, which was a car paint material, which I'd never used before, and it's a pretty weird material. But I don't understand it yet, but it kind of worked nicely. I'm sure if I understood it better, I could do it better, use it better. So anyway, doing a couple tests. The first one, the flecks were too small, actually, so that one looked nice. So I'm calling that good. Now I'm going to do the snow. And for the emitter, like I said before, you can see that I'm kind of changing the shape of the emitter to fit loosely the frustum, the view frustum. And so I'm just going to, so that plane should be the one that I duplicate over all of this. I'm just setting up some stuff, making each particle really light. Gonna add in some drag eventually, rotate them all randomly. Yeah, scale that up a bit. Okay. So there's the drag. And so the most important thing that I changed here was the time step of the simulation and the start frame. And so that really got me, or allowed me to get them falling really slow and falling far enough. So by manipulating those two, I got the particles falling slow enough and within the view. So you can see me just playing around with those until I get them right. So that's about right, I think. Yeah, there might be too many. Yeah. So we do weight paint them to distribute them differently. I really just kind of enter in the values by hand here just to get a more perfect gradient right there, like that. So there's that, and they're moving around just perfectly. So shrink them down a bit. Let's bring in the snowflake texture. And actually everything came over for that one, I think. I didn't have to really enter in anything manually. And so now I'm setting up the focal point of the camera, which was very important in my piece because I really liked how some of the snowflakes were out of focus, and I think that added something nice. But I'm having a couple issues with the autofocus because I forgot to uncheck it. There it is, I figured it out. So, yeah. Okay, so that's looking nicer. So I think I'm gonna paint in some motion and then do a test render just to check out the motion blur. In my other piece, Time Spring, I used the Blender internal renderer to kind of render out the motion blur to test it, and I should have done that here, but I think I forgot about that. This just took a lot more time. So if I wanted like a quick preview, I should really have done that, and then I would have caught the fact that this motion blur, when it finishes rendering there, merging it all together, is too much. Yeah, that's just too much. So I go back and I change it by increasing or reducing the time step. It falls a lot slower, and then by decreasing the start frame as well, it will fall further. It gives it more time to fall at a slower speed. So by playing with those two, I got it where it should be. So anyway, it's moving a lot less now. Probably going to do another test render very soon. Yep, I forgot to turn on LuxRender again. Okay, I do that, but it starts rendering from the old FLMs because I forgot to delete them. There we go. And let's check this one out. and I think it's too little. Like, it's not moving enough. So anyway, so I just kind of quickly changed the time step and stuff, and I don't even bother to check it. I was like, all right, this is gonna be good. So I just kind of go with it and paint in some motion. And I forgot to delete the FLMs again. Doing well. Okay, and I like that. I like that a lot better. So I think this is all done, and so that's how I did the snow for my piece. Anyway, a big thank you to everyone on the forums who had patience with me while I finished this piece. It took a lot longer than I expected it to, and I really appreciate the patience that everyone showed. So a big thank you for that, and I hope someone found something useful in this little tutorial, and thanks for watching.